Hello and welcome to an episode of Camilla and I, lens review with a wildlife perspective. Today's lens in the spotlight is the Sony 90mm f2.8 macro, which I bought about a year ago. It was the 10th sharpest lens in the world, maybe it still is. Let me know in the comments below if it's now changed. This lens is only a Sony G series, not a Grand Master or a GM lens. This is probably because although it's very well made, there is plastic rather than metal in its construction. And having said that, though, it does feel very good in the hand with a fair amount of weight to it. A good lot of glass in here. Quickly running through the specs, we have a maximum aperture of f2.8 running through to a minimum aperture of f22, a 62mm filter thread, and a quick pro tip for wildlife photographers here is to keep a professional UV filter on the lens at all times to avoid scratching the front element. The weight of this lens is just shy of 700 grams, or just over 1.5 pounds in old money. It has a direct drive supersonic motor for a DD-SSM silent motor. It's got great G-lens bokeh with circular aperture for the smooth defocusing effect. Built-in image stabilization, of course. The lens has 11 lens groups, 15 elements or glass parts, 2 extra low dispersion elements, and indeed one of these extra dispersion elements is a super ED glass. The lens angle of view is 27 degrees, and on an APC body or crop mode it's 17 degrees. It has a 9-blade circular aperture, and the minimum focus distance is 28 centimeters or just under a foot in old money. A maximum magnification of 1:1, as do all true macro lenses. The size is 13 centimeters or about 6 inches long. Amazingly, this lens also has a focus scale for manual use. So value for money, not the cheapest macro lens out there, but probably one of the best. My friends at Castle Cameras, Salisbury, are apparently selling a lot of macro lenses at the moment. People are doing a lot in their gardens. So anyway, if you mention Mr. C, they are currently knocking £50 off this lens at the moment, making it £849. They need the business, as there are 15 fantastic staff jobs on the line. And they are only doing web sales at the moment, so get yours as soon as you can to keep local businesses going, please. So what do you get in the bag? What do you get for your money? Well, you get a vinyl bag for one thing, but unfortunately that's not the only thing. You do get the best macro lens you can buy for the Sony mirrorless system. It's optically superior, and its autofocus and manual focus are excellent. The detail I can get on my macro shots is incredible. Link to macro shots. It scores 5 out of 5 in almost every review I've read. And well, let me know in the comments below if you've found a poor review of this lens. I've yet to find one. Needless to say, here on Camilla and I, it scores 10 out of 10. I could not recommend this lens more for wildlife because it has a fast, almost silent autofocus, optical image stabilization, a silent diaphragm operation. I get autofocus over the entire frame on my Sony A9. I get the world's best macro autofocus system. Also the best auto manual focus switch system, which is this lens click there. One click, I'm in manual. Spectacular sharp optics, great bokeh, no distortion, a focus lock button, just the one, as well as a versatile portrait lens as well. This lens has got it all, except one thing. One minor point, as a macro lens, it only stops down to f22, not f32. So an interesting point. Anyway, let me know in the comments below whether you have any problems with the Sony 90mm macro, or is it just a thumbs up all round. The other issue I personally have with this lens is that it will not take the 1.4 teleconverter. It doesn't go with the 90mm macro at all. So please, Sony, will you make Camilla and I a 150 to 200mm macro lens? Because we need that sort of focal length. Camilla and I have to get up very early and stay out late on summer evenings to get our shots. The wildlife we like to photograph does not usually sit around long enough when the sun comes up. The golden hour, just like landscape, applies to wildlife photography as well. Anyway, proviso, if you can't get up early enough, the 100 to 400 Sony 4.5 to 5.6 f-stop, which, see my review, is a very versatile option with a macro capability. Not 1:1, but it will focus down to 1 meter, and this is incredible, and I'll show you quick what you can do with that. Anyway, with this lens you get a very different view of the world. You get incredibly fine detail with very shallow depth of field. Camilla and I go for insects and butterflies and dragonflies, anything that doesn't fly off really, and I'll throw in a few examples of those taken with this lens. Another pro tip for macro wildlife photography with this lens is the use of a Wimberley clamp. I'll put a picture of one there. It's a very useful piece of equipment for wildlife photography. Remind me in the comments if I forget to put this link to that one in. Macro brings out everything in photography. You certainly get to know your camera better. You get every tiny defect and every beauty is brought to light. Well, that's all from Camilla and I on the Sony f2.8 macro. What an absolute masterpiece. But join us in the field for later videos. Butterflies and dragonflies are two of my favourites, up above, oh that way. And but you don't need the world's best macro lens, the Sony 90mm f2.8. They all tend to be extremely good. Anyway, good luck in the garden. Keep it simple to start with. Practice those skills. Get to know your equipment inside out. And best wishes and good health to all. Bye from Camilla and I and the 90mm macro.